How's it going, super friends? Welcome back to my channel. If it's your first time here, welcome for the first time. And for those of you who are longtime viewers, no, your eyes and ears are not deceiving you. I finally did the voiceover for the video I've been talking about for almost 2 years. You know, the one where I said I was going to compare side by side the genuine Article Mezco 1/12 Collective Green Arrow figure and the oh-so-terrible, substandard, low-grade Green Arrow-shaped plastic turd of a knockoff. The reason why it took me so long to do the voiceover for this video is I really didn't quite know how I wanted to approach it. I didn't want to need to talk about everything in every picture because that would have made this video much longer and completely undigestible. And it's going to be long as it is. And I finally settled on the idea of just pointing out some of the bigger differences, but hoping that you all have a keen enough eye to be able to discern the genuine from the fake in every picture. Because really, if I can see the difference, then you probably can too. And the differences in many cases, like I said, are glaring. You cannot miss them. In every single way, shape, and form, the knockoff is clearly the inferior product. Now, before I go any further, I do want to give you a very quick rundown of how I came across this figure. It was actually completely by accident. I thought I was buying the real genuine article, and it wasn't until I got this bad boy home and had to look at it out of the box and started fiddling with it that I remember thinking, wow, this is really garbage. This is not good quality. What happened? Did Mezco crap the bed or something? I've got a few other Mezco figures and they are far better than this. Well, what's going on here? And then I got online and started doing research and started looking, and I looked very closely at the eBay listing and the other things that they were selling. And I realized that what I had was an Asian knockoff that they say is the Chinese version, which really just means they ripped off Mezco 1/12 Collective's intellectual property, which they do not have the license from Warner Brothers Collectibles to release these figures. They're nothing but stolen intellectual property. I can't stress that enough. And as a side note, personally, I feel that every single person that's an adult collector, regardless of the availability of the genuine article, should feel very insulted that stuff like this is being passed off as the genuine article very dirtily, very connivingly, from people who are hoping we just won't be able to tell the difference. And then once we do, they're hoping we will not open up an eBay case or raise a stink. They're hoping that we are dumb enough that they can pull the wool over our eyes and that we won't notice that this is garbage. Out of all of the things that suck about the knockoff, the glaring differences being all of the leather belt work that looks fantastic on the genuine article. The casting looks nice. All the paint is exactly where it's supposed to be. And you can tell that some care has gone into creating and painting and decoing this. The knockoff one is not nearly as good. The sculpted detail isn't there from the casting. The paint is just all over the place. And it is an inferior product all the way through. Not to mention, it actually fell apart on me. One of the straps actually came off. The green pleather zip-up tunic that Oliver comes with on the genuine is fantastic. The stitching looks nice. It's spaced nicely. They used the proper color thread. It's a wired hood, which it should be, because if it's not, the hood just stays up and you have zero control. Whereas the fake one, they didn't give a rat's patoot about the actual quality of the stitching. The zipper came apart at the bottom pretty much right away and won't go back together properly. There are threads hanging off of it, and there's no wire in the hood, so you have no control. As for the head sculpts of both of them, which you've already seen by now, the genuine article is nice and crisp, and it's molded in some high quality plastic, and all around, it looks fantastic. It stinks of quality. But when you get to the knockoff, it is, in my opinion, the most insulting part of the figure because it just looks garbagey. The quality of plastic they use is clearly substandard. The molding process was clearly substandard because it's just covered in bits and chunks and there's cracks in it. And yet the detail is not there. Oliver's mustache and goatee and his hair, it's all blobby. And as someone who has bought other casts of some of my favorite characters, head sculpts, Batman, Superman, Joker, on eBay, I can tell you that if it's casted properly, all the cracks should be filled in. And so very minimal effort has gone into stealing the intellectual property. Aside from that, you have other problems, like the Mezco one, a big dead giveaway, is that it's shorter than the genuine article. The green is different on the tunic and on his boots and on his gauntlets. And the paint is not nearly as well done. The casting on all the leather straps for his gauntlets is definitely not as good. You've got the problem that his quiver won't stick into the back of his leather straps. I mean, you could fudge it and super glue it in, but it doesn't even fit. They didn't even make sure that when they were ripping off Mezco's product, that it would actually even fit together properly. Just disregard. When you get to the actual body itself, not only is it entirely cast in the most inferior garbage plastic I've ever seen, but it didn't even stand the test of time for more than 2 minutes. The second I began manipulating the joints and trying to pose him and check out the articulation, he broke right at the bicep. Snapped right off, clean off. And remember, we're not dealing with an old school DC Direct here. We're dealing with a Mezco 1/12 Collective knockoff, and it broke, it snapped. And the elbows, the way that the forearms connect to the elbow joints, I've never even seen that kind of form of articulation before. There's no peg that goes through, there's nothing, and there's no way for it to stick together. You can pull them out right away with very little effort. The accessories on the genuine are nice and clean. The edges are sharp. You can see that these have been properly casted and then painted well too. The people that are responsible for the deco on these actually showed up to work sober, having a good night's sleep, and actually cared about what they were doing. Whereas once you come to the accessories of the knockoff, it becomes entirely clear that the people responsible for painting these had a who cares mentality. Because, for one, the sculpt that they have to paint in the first place is garbage. It's blobby and gross. And you could really see it when it comes to the claw arrow and the explosive arrow and the razor arrow tips. They're just cast so bad. Along with, and you can really see it with the back end of each of the arrows. They're just rounded. There's no feathers, really. But then, when you get to the paint job, they're painted poorly. They could have painted their crappily molded product nicely, but they didn't even care to do that. And why would they? Because clearly across the board, zero effort and care has been put into the entire figure. It's molded out of garbage plastic. It is painted trashily. All of the fabric parts of his suit are so hastily and shoddily sewn together that it isn't even a reasonable facsimile of the original. It's just, I've said it before and I'll say it again. It's just Green Arrow shaped plastic turd. It's garbage, and it's not worth the 2-cent plastic that it's been molded out of. And honestly, I wouldn't even take my chances if I were you with the paint, because we have no idea if it's lead paint or if the plastic's even safe, because they don't have to adhere to the same standard that an American company has to adhere to in the manufacturing process. We don't even know if these are actually chemically safe. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, as somebody who has purchased knockoffs in the past, one time I purchased a set of Ninja Turtle knockoffs because I had no idea they were knockoffs. They were really good quality. And they were clearly at least made with some form of care. I would say don't buy these, but for reason number one, they're not well done. They're not well made. And it's nothing but regret the second you get it out of the box. And then I would say reason number two is you don't know if they're safe or not. Reason number three is you are buying something that is actually just stolen intellectual property. So you're actually supporting thieves. You're supporting people who have pilfered something that doesn't belong to them. And then finally, it's always important to do yourself as the collector right. If you really liked the actual figure, then do yourself right by saving up your money, saving your pennies, stick it in a jar, stick it in a shoebox under your bed. And once you've saved up the money to pay for the aftermarket price of a figure that you really want, it will be worth it. I promise you. The fake figure is garbage and it's not worth even 25 cents. It's just going to fall apart, maybe make you sick, and in the end, it sends a message to Mezco, not that, hey, you should make more in your production runs, but it sends a message rather to the people doing the bootlegs that we are dumb enough that they can pull the wool over our eyes and we won't notice that they're garbage, when really it's just those of us who deserve better settling for less. So that would be my reasons. I've shown a side-by-side comparison. If you were on the fence about purchasing the bootleg, now you have all the visual information you need to see just how trash the bootlegs are. And I'm always an advocate for buying the original, and that's the exact same case here. Anyway, that's my story. I'm sticking to it. Hopefully you found this video to be insightful and useful in some way. And if you did, please leave a like on the video so I know that I've done something right. And I will see you in the next one. Have a DC day, everybody, and take care.